Hey guys, welcome to the Refined Savage. Today we are going to talk about the hammer throw. Now, in a series of events as technical as the Highland Games are, the hammer looks like it would be one of the more simple ones, but again, we're dealing with a highly technical event that is very frustrating for a lot of people. My problem came with the fact that I couldn't make the Scots hammer technique work. So the Scots hammer technique is a very side-to-side based technique where your hips are moving with every wind of the throw. I had a lot of problems doing that, so I found a technique to try based on what Matt Stanford was doing, world champion Highland Games athlete Matt Stanford. I kind of took some very limited videos that are available of him and created a technique based on his throw. It worked well for me. I didn't have to catch the hips on every wind, and I could use the things that were good for me, which was a strong upper back to propel the hammer. I went from throwing maybe high 80s to low 90s in the heavy hammer and just over 100 feet in the light hammer to PRs of 107 and 128 when I switched over techniques towards the end of my career. It went along with trying to make these Highland Games technically as simple as possible. That way they held up in high stress situations. So let's get into some hammer throwing. We'll start with some warm-ups and then get into the throws itself. So let's talk about warm-ups a little bit. So general warm-up for me is just lots of winds. Carl Braun, who was a fabulous hammer thrower back in the late 90s, would talk about doing 10 sets of 10 winds several times a week just to get the rhythm of the technique. And I don't do quite that much anymore, but when I was learning the Stanford technique, I spent a lot of time doing that. So 10 sets of 10 hammer winds. But when I start to warm up for the event, I'm just working on getting nice, smooth winds, trying to loosen everything up, break up anything that's been sitting overnight and getting stiff, and just kind of loosening up the shoulders and hips. If you notice where I start with the hammer's going to be started behind my right foot. And then as I come up, I'm just trying to stretch as far as I can on each one, just getting a nice, smooth technique going. One of the things about the hammer is you're trying to stay as long and smooth as possible. Any kind of pulling hard on the hammer at the wrong spot is going to pull that hammer out of orbit, and it's going to shorten your radius. It's going to make the hammer go shorter. So you want to stay long and loose through the whole thing. Here's another thing I got from Matt Stanford, just adding a 10-pound plate to a 16-pound hammer just to get some overweight work in. It's just like adding a donut to a bat for baseball. So here we're looking at a 26-pound hammer, and again, I'm trying to keep as long and loose and fluid as possible. Again, not wearing hammer boots for this because I just want to create a good sense of balance without the boots. Speaking of boots, so when you deal with boots, there's a lot of different ways you can go about doing this. Some people get really long blades. I had a pair of really long blades that I bought from a friend. They had a bend in them, and they stuck in the ground too much, and when I went to pull my foot out, I ended up injuring myself. So I had the blade switched to a much shorter blade. You don't need to get crazy with these. These are just something to keep you planted in the ground, okay? You don't have to have, 14-inch blades on the end of your boots. Just get something simple that's going to keep you in the ground but enable you to get out of the ground when you need to. So here's the setup. So as we set up, we're putting the hammer behind the right foot. Okay, that starts the exact orbit where I want it to go. And if you notice, as the hammer goes through the motions, it's coming right back to that point just above where I had set it earlier to start the throw. So for the setup, you're starting with the hammer behind your right foot. Now, as I bring the hammer through, I'm trying to create an orbit in front and to the right of my body. Okay, so I'm keeping everything heavy on the right side. Matt was known for having a huge arc in his throw and keeping everything right-sided. This is a very easy way to keep everything on the right side because you start it on the right and you keep it on the right for as long as possible. Now, Matt's arc, when he threw, was pretty extreme, and mine isn't as extreme as his, mainly because I'm 6 feet tall on a good day, and Matt was about 6 inches taller than I am. So his arc was even more vertical, where mine, there's a slight If you notice that slight arch to the left, the hammer will actually get over the left side at the very top just a little bit, but you're still keeping everything heavy on that right side. As I come through, I'm actually thinking of pushing my right hip against an imaginary fence post on the right side. I got that from Al Schotterman. So I think about pushing that right hip against an imaginary post on the right side to keep me over there and keep everything on the right. When I'm going through the motions here, I'm thinking about long and loose. And I'm actually saying in my head, patience, patience on every wind. You don't want to get ahead of yourself. You don't want to speed up the hammer before it's time. So you're looking at 2 big loping swings on the right. Once that hammer starts to get up above the head on that 3rd swing, now you're pulling down as hard as you can, extending with those hips and exploding up and over your right shoulder as hard as you can. But be patient and wait on it. If you notice, the hammer is going very slowly, and I'm trying to stretch out as far as I can until that very last swing, and that's when I accelerate the hammerhead, not until. If you start early, you're going to screw up the whole rhythm of the throw. So the Stanford technique is not for everybody. Like I said, if you're having problems with the Scots hammer and trying to wind the hips on every turn, this is a good option for people. Some people don't even know it exists because Matt wasn't around for that long, so there's not very many videos of him. But if you can find a good video of Matt to watch, thanks again for watching this. I hope it helps out some people. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and share. And while you're at it, head over to thereFineSavage.com and check out the new gear we have available. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you soon.